Excellent. Wow. Three really inspiring and I think very complementary talks as well with different perspectives. Um, questions. Yes, Anne. Could we grab a microphone for Anne? Thank you. Oh, great. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for all you're doing to help older people in particular, but in general. And it'd be fantastic if any or all of your organisations would like to associate with us so that we can carry on working together on this issue. We'd love it. I've got two questions because, yeah, I had 10 years of helping to care for a mum with dementia, but also, you know, just life experience. One thing I think is tragic is the way that care homes are kind of separated off from the local community, and we don't seem to see it as part of our community or a responsibility of ours as local people. You know, we buy into our hospices. Why don't we buy in that same way to our care homes? And also if you're on the route of having going with a private provider, you seem to be like even more cut off because the local authority won't let you go to over 60s events and so on. I've tried to take my mum to those and was discriminated against for that. I mean, is it an issue of where and how care homes are built? And then secondly, in response to the issue of, yes, you know, what we really want to do is keep people fit and well in their own homes as long as possible. So is there a major role for occupational therapists?
Thank you, Anne. I see Hilary's got a question as well. Would anyone like to respond to Anne's comments, though, about care homes not being embraced by their communities in the same way that hospices are and have funds raised for them, which is an interesting point. Caroline Nadra.
Do you want me to take this one? Caroline, you go first.
You go for it, Nadra. This is your bag, I think.
I think it's really disappointing that care homes are not seen as open services, because it's certainly something that we've consistently talked about, is that it should become a community hub for people. And when we had services, they were not quite in the middle of town, but they were just outside. But people used to come to us if they needed a Zimmer or something like that. They'd come to us for advice. And I think it's incumbent on the providers as well to open up their homes. So, you know, having open days and all of that kind of stuff. If there is an open day in and around where you live, any care service, you know, do pop in. Because the other thing about it is that I also talk about, we don't only provide care, we also do have activity coordinators in services. It's much more common now than it was when I opened in 1981. But then people used to walk into my care home. It was a completely different world, you know, and they used to drive in and go to the pub. It's now they come in by ambulance. It's a very different scenario. But I think it is an important point, because care homes also are inviting, you know, local ballet schools, the local junior school. You know, this time of the year, we have everybody and anybody coming in to sing to the residents. But why, the question you ask is really important. Why do people not volunteer in care homes? And I think that's always been dissuaded by the regulators, by everybody else, to have volunteers. And I think that's wrong. Sometimes we do have people do come in and volunteer, but it's not as much as it should be. So I completely take that on board.
Any other comments? Rachel, did you want to make a comment from the patient perspective? No, it's fine. Rachel? Caroline, sorry.
Do you want me to pick up the OT point?
Oh yes, that would be helpful. That's interesting.
I completely agree. And actually the future, undoubtedly, for older people living in the community is much more multidisciplinary approach. So yes, the GP is important, but gosh, so's the district nurse, you know, the skin viability nurse, the OT, the physio. We need all these people working together, and the voluntary sector as well. And that's just not where we are at the moment. We are doing that in some places, but most places it's much more disjointed. And so, yeah, those people are fantastically important for older people, just as important as the allied health professionals, as they're called, just as important as the clinicians for loads of older people, as of course as social care. All need to be working together.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I've got Hilary online and then Jackie here with us in the room. Hilary.
Hi, thanks. Like Anne, I just wanted to say thank you for doing what you do. I raised this resolution on the back of a frustrated time when we had to support my mother-in-law to get her into care. And I saw where there were some issues, shall we say, to put it mildly. I understand and feel your frustration of having to fight your corner all the time with Parliament, because it seems to me, personally, the experts are brought in and asked for their advice and then Parliament ignores it. And because they're all dealing with, yes, 101 million topics, but they're also dealing with their political side. So there is a part of me that thinks that Parliament shouldn't even be involved in this. They shouldn't be the people to make the decision. It should be, you know, the people led by the experts who run the sector, as how to coordinate, how to link up, how to spread the costs. I personally also think people, you know, the general public need to realise they're going to have to start paying for this. There is just not enough money. It's as simple as that. So, that's just to say my personal opinions on where Parliament sits with all of this. It was good to hear about what Rachel said about, you know, the scary places of A&E, because one of my suggestions was that you split it into a older person's friendlier A&E, again, that's linked into social care, to guide them down a different corridor, so to speak, away from major trauma that other parts of A&E have to deal with, because it's not going to help anybody, is it? If you're having an issue and then you're surrounded by somebody else's blood and guts, how can A&E's trying to do too much for too many people. So again, personally, I think it should be split into different sections of A&E. I know that will cost too much. The hospitals probably don't have the space, but it's just at this point, I'm sort of, you throw out ideas, don't you, and hope for the best. My sort of question is, how can I help? How can I personally help? And then on the back of that, how can the NCW help? Because I know we can link in with you, we can all work together as associates, we can campaign on each other's behalf. But is there something specific that we can actually do to see things moving forward? And again, how can I personally help? On the back of going into your care home and bringing it into community, my husband and I visit his mother every other week, because it's a 2.5 hour journey there, and 5 hours there and back. So we do that every other week. So we're going into a care home and getting to know how they run and what they're like. It can be quite frightening at times, especially because we're in a dementia care home. So it's frightening for your average person to walk in to and see what you see, hear what you hear, and are faced with what you're faced. So I think part of why care homes are maybe not in the community as much as hospices are, because hospices, people know where you're at with the hospice, that there's a bit of an end result there. A care home, it throws up all sorts of different things and atmospheres and experiences. And I think that the general public is probably frightened and also not wanting to look at where they might end up. So it's again, that goes back to what's linked along all the resolutions and discussion today is education. and getting people more aware and breaking down, I suppose, the barriers, and so that we can all support each other as a community and get a bit more involved, understand what things cost. So therefore, when the politicians do, grow a backbone and say, all right, folks, you're going to have to pay, the general public will pay, because they'll say, well, yeah, we can see why it costs that much. We've actually watched it. So it's just a thought.
It's more than just a thought, I think, Hilary. Thank you so much for that. I think your two questions were at the end were how can we as individuals help, and how can NCW help? So which of you, Nadja, Caroline, Rachel, would like to address that first?
I can
Give us some quick tips about what we can do.
Some very quick tips is, Nadja has spoken about a lot of campaigns that you're doing, and Age UK do so much stuff. The Patient Association is patient membership, it's free membership, but sign up as members, get involved in our work, because that gives us opportunities to contact you, to do surveys, focus groups, etc. And I think then for me, so I think that's how you can get involved. And for me, a lot of what you're talking, Hilary, about is about, we need to come from a place where we're not commissioning for activities, we're commissioning for outcomes, because the more we start to look at outcomes and what's happening, the more the public will get involved, I think. And I for one, when we asked the public, this is a long time ago, they were more than happy to pay more to support health and care. But that's a judgment that a party has to be brave enough to take. So I will leave that there.
Thank you.
Caroline, shall I just come in quickly there and just say that it's really grateful for the offer of help, and at this moment in time we are running the campaign Providers Unite. There's a website. We've got over 1,000 people who have actually signed up. It was a letter to the Chancellor saying about social care and the challenges and the implications. Absolutely, anybody's welcome to come on here, and you get a link to come onto the calls that we're doing. We got over 90 people on a call the other day. It's just about hearing about the experiences and what people want to do in order to raise the issue. It is the image of social care at the moment that we do need to be working really, really hard on. We can't be sidelined just thinking about the NHS and not social care. So the impact of not having a robust social care, I think that's the important thing. But I mean, let's exchange email addresses or whatever, Hilary, and I'm sure there's so many different things that we could get you involved in as somebody who is who is supporting somebody who's a recipient of the service, because that's also really valuable to us as providers.
Fabulous. That's a great offer. Thank you. Caroline, have you got
thank you.
tips for that?
I'll be quick. I'm sure we're running out of time a bit, but I mean, Hilary, you're doing a great job already. So don't beat yourself up. You've got this your whole organisation behind your motion. That's fantastic, and you're taking action in your own life. And really, there's I think you're doing really well as it is. But you'd be very welcome to join up with Age UK as a campaigner. If you come onto our website, you'll see how to do it. And through that also links you into all sorts of other activities if you're interested. And everyone is very, very welcome. And I just wanted to pick up on a couple of the things you said. One was about A&E, where actually there's at least one A&E in the country which is doing exactly what you're suggesting. It's Norfolk, I think. It might be Norwich, but it's definitely Norfolk, where they've set up a special frailty bit of the A&E. So if you're a frail older person who comes into A&E, that's where you go. And then the other side of the coin is there are also, I think, A&Es that are thinking about things like basically siphoning off people with significant mental health problems, because obviously that's the other side of the coin, if you like, where if you have someone who is very unwell from a mental health perspective and is causing a lot of difficulties for staff, you don't really want to be an older person sitting with that either. So there there is more thought going on. It's really interesting if you look at the data on who's going into A&E and who's spending the longest time there. It is older people, and it's older people over 85 whose length of stay in A&E is much, much longer than anybody else's. And the reason for that is because they usually, of course, as we might expect, have complex needs. So they have probably got 3 or 4 different things going on, probably have a social care need as well. And at the moment, our NHS is not configured to really deal with them as well as they should. So obviously part of my role, one of the things I want to do on the NHS plan is to try and cajole the NHS and government into making many more adaptations so that the system works much, much better for older people. And then final point, and you said, I think, Anya, I think you're absolutely right, that lots of people are frightened about care homes and they're frightened about getting older. You might be interested to know that at Age UK, we've got a new strategy, just agreed it, and one of our big aims is about transforming public attitudes to older people. So expect to see much more publicity from us and more shoutingness from us, and more encouragement and soft stuff as well, about just getting people to get more realistic about the fact that we're all going to get older if we're lucky. And rather than being frightened of it, let's embrace it and make the most of it. And let's prepare for it a bit better as well. So we're launching a campaign, for example, in the spring, which is all about trying to get to people in midlife and getting them not to deny the fact they're heading towards later life, but actually start to think about how to make absolutely the best of it.
Fabulous. Thank you. Really,
Thank you.
really good, great note to end on. Can I thank all 3 of you, Nadra, Caroline and Rachel, so much for joining us on a Saturday afternoon. We really do appreciate it. I think it's been so valuable in pointing to lots of areas where we can work together in the future. We'll certainly be picking up on that from the NCW perspective with all of you and your organisations. And of course, our resolution, which, as you know, has been passed unanimously today, to urge the government to do much more about adult social care. So we'll be taking that forward in lots of different ways, online debates, campaigns, and we'll definitely talk to you about that. So thank you so much. We just one last round of applause. Thank you very much indeed. And can I thank everybody who has joined us for today on a day that started with rather a lot of snow up near Darlington and is now raining. But thank you so much, everybody who came, made long journeys, made huge efforts to be with us. All those of you on Zoom who have joined us and stayed with us for the day, I think that's been really great to know that so many of you are there supporting us. And just, I want to end with a big thank you to everybody, to Keith, who's looked after our technical side and which has gone as near to clockwork as I could possibly hope. Sheila, who's supported us with all the packs and the material for the day and keeping us all in order. And to all of you for coming. Thank you so much.